The Super Famicom RPG library gets reduced to the same handful of titles in every conversation, and those games deserve every word written about them. But the platform also hosted a remarkable number of RPGs that never left Japan, sold modestly and got forgotten, or arrived so late in the system's life that nobody was paying attention anymore. All of them have been sitting in the shadow of better marketed games for 30 years, and at least a few of them deserve to come out of it. Energy Breaker is a 1996 tactical RPG from Neverland and Taito that's set in the same world as the Lufia series, with character designs by the Trigun author and a combat mechanic that most tactics games still haven't adopted. The action point system ties each unit's available AP directly to their remaining health. Injured units literally get fewer actions per turn. This is a genuinely elegant design decision. Rushing down a dangerous enemy to reduce their AP before they can retaliate is a real strategy. So is prioritizing healing an injured ally so they can act fully on their next turn. The player can also act with characters in any order during their phase, including interleaving. Do something with one character, then another, then come back to the first. It's a small thing that opens up significantly more tactical space than phase lock turn order allows. Protagonist Myra is an amnesiac woman exploring the island of Zemuria, and the game's writing is genuinely warm. Character interactions use thought balloon animations that convey emotion more expressively than most 16-bit RPGs manage, and even minor NPCs feel like people you've grown to know. But its time travel subplot feels tacked on and underutilized. The inventory system confuses new players, and some past segment navigation gets directionless. But the AP health system and the character depth make this one of the most undervalued tactical RPGs on the platform. The ending resolves every character arc with genuine emotional care, something the genre rarely bothered with in 1996. The Seven Saga is a game that requires a content warning before any recommendation. The Western release is genuinely harder than the game was designed to be. Enix of America, believing the Japanese version too easy, increased enemy stats and reduced the experience gain from leveling up without rebalancing anything else. The result is an RPG where certain characters are nearly impossible to survive the early game with. Random encounters drain full HP from a full party, and the grinding required to advance borders on punitive. There's a fan patch that restores the original Japanese balance, and playing with it active reveals what the game actually was: a strange, atmospheric RPG with a concept nobody else attempted. That concept is 7 playable apprentices are sent by a king to collect 7 magical runes, and all 7 are playing simultaneously in the same world. You pick one as your protagonist, recruit one of the others as your partner, and one of the remaining characters becomes your rival, occasionally ambushing you. The world has a consistently oppressive tone, dark dungeons, dour towns, sparse dialogue, and the mode's 7 battle perspective genuinely looked unlike anything else in 1993. The story was hurt further by the localization, cutting character backstories, reducing the motivation to care about who you're playing. But the structure, a multi-protagonist rune race where other player characters are your rivals, was unprecedented. Play the Fan Restore version, choose wisely, and experience what was supposed to be there. Front Mission Gun Hazard is a 1996 side-scrolling mech action RPG developed by Omiya Soft, a studio staffed largely by the team behind Cybernator and published by Square. If you know Cybernator, one of the great SNES action games, you know what the baseline feels like. Heavy, weighty mechs with genuine momentum, weapons that feel ballistic, and a level of mech animation that stood apart from almost everything on the platform. Gun Hazard takes that framework and adds nearly 100 missions spread across a global map. XP-based progression, Wanzer customization with individual part upgrades, and usage-based weapon improvement that rewards actually using weapons throughout a run. The soundtrack includes contributions from Nobuo Uematsu and Yasunori Mitsuda, who were between Final Fantasy VI and Chrono Trigger respectively when they worked on this. You can exit your Wanzer and explore on foot, which opens up certain areas and items, though it leaves you substantially more vulnerable. The story follows Albert, a Wanzer pilot caught up in a global conspiracy across locations that include Scandinavia, South America, and Central Asia. It's set in an alternate front mission universe, not connected to the main series timeline. The RPG element friction is the main complaint. Menus between missions can be cumbersome, and players who want pure action will find the stat management interrupts flow. Japan-only release, late in the SNES life cycle, zero Western visibility. The combination of Cybernator quality action and Square quality production design makes this one of the system's most accomplished hidden works. Metal Max Returns is a 1995 SNES remake of a 1991 Famicom game that predates Fallout by about 5 years in its construction of post-apocalyptic open-world RPG design. You play a bounty hunter in a Mad Max wasteland. Your father is a tank mechanic who kicks you out of the house at the start. You immediately need a tank. Most of the game is about getting better tanks, customizing their loadouts, chassis, engine, main cannon, auxiliary gun, special weapon, armor, within a weight limit that forces actual trade-offs. Engines determine how much you can carry. Armor raises your hit points. Special weapons have limited ammo, but hit everything on screen. You fight bounty targets for money to upgrade further. A metal detector finds buried weapons and mines in the overworld. The core loop is non-linear in a way most 1991 RPGs weren't attempting. You can technically complete the main objective at almost any time. The game is aware of this and has a dark humor about it. NPCs tell you to give up and go home. The design acknowledges you could quit. But there's always another bounty, another buried tank, another dungeon you haven't explored. The narrative is thin by design. Navigation without a guide can get unclear in later areas. Grinding can feel slow before you find better equipment. What makes it hold up is the specific combination of open-world freedom, genuine vehicle customization depth, and a wasteland tone that's grimly funny rather than relentlessly dark. Fallout got the credit for this design space. Metal Max got there first. Live Alive is a Square game from 1994 that was so experimental the company apparently decided Western audiences weren't ready for it. It took until 2022 to get an official English release, despite being directed by Takashi Takeda, who went on to direct Chrono Trigger the following year. The game is an anthology, 7 standalone chapters, each set in a different historical or fictional time period, each playable in any order, each with its own protagonist, tone, and genre gimmick. When you finish all 7, an 8th chapter ties it together in ways that hit considerably harder because of everything that came before. The battle system runs on a 7x7 grid where abilities have specific range patterns, positioning matters, and there's no MP. All moves are free with charge times, and characters heal fully between battles. It's closer to a tactics game than a traditional RPG in its feel, without the overhead of a full tactics setup. Each chapter uses the system differently enough to keep it fresh across most of the runtime. The weaknesses are that a couple of chapters are padded, and the near-future chapter in particular requires revisiting the same areas several times in ways that frustrate rather than build tension. And combat wears slightly thin toward the 3/4 mark. But the overall ambition, an anthology RPG in 1994, was genuinely unprecedented, and the HD 2D 2022 remake is a beautiful way to finally experience it. Terranigma is Quintet's final SN game, and the one that got farthest while still being missed by North America entirely. The previous 2 Quintet action RPGs, Soul Blazer and Illusion of Gaia, both made it to Western shores. Terranigma got an English translation and a PAL release covering Europe and Australia. Then Enix of America closed its doors before it could ship stateside, and 30 years later, it still hasn't been officially re-released. The reason it matters: the game tells you, in the first hour, that you're going to resurrect the world. Plants first, then animals, then civilization. You travel the overworld and literally grow towns by completing quests. A lighthouse gets built, a factory opens, a city expands. You watch it happen. The combat is a fast-action RPG with a 6-move combo system. Stab, flurry, jump spin, dash strike, running dash, and a guard. Those moves string together differently against different enemy types and bosses. And Ark, the protagonist, has an attitude the silent SNES hero rarely had, with a wisecracking tone that makes him genuinely fun to follow. The themes running through the story deal with evolution, the nature of God and devil, and reincarnation in ways that are probably why Nintendo of America would have had concerns in 1996. The mid-game civilization building section slows down significantly once the actual dungeon crawling stops. The ring magic system feels underutilized, but the ending is among the most bittersweet in all of gaming. Earned, quiet, and devastating. And the right situation means it remains genuinely difficult to access legally. Fan translations are how most people have played this. Treasure of the Rudra's is the last RPG Square made for the Super Nintendo, and it contains one of the most original magic systems in any JRPG before or since. The Kodadama, or Mantra, system lets you open a spell book mid-battle and type syllable combinations directly. The combinations generate different effects based on the words. Fire-related syllables create fire attacks. Healing syllables create healing spells. Combinations produce unique results. There are over 300 discoverable combinations. You can share discovered mantras with other characters. You can learn them from enemies. The system was considered untranslatable for years, and the Aeon Genesis release in 2006 required the translator to crack the underlying code entirely. The game runs 3 parallel storylines simultaneously, all playable in any order. Actions in one timeline affect items and events in others. Items left behind by one character can be found by another. The setting uses Hindu-influenced cosmology. Every 4,000 years, a Rudra destroys the dominant race to make room for the next. Humanity has 15 days. The story follows the standard hero's journey template despite that extraordinary premise, which is the primary disappointment. The world deserves more audacious writing than it gets. There's also a game-breaking bug on day 8 in Serlant's storyline that requires specific workaround knowledge. But the Mantra system alone makes this worth playing. Shin Megami Tensei 2 came out in 1994 for the Super Famicom and didn't get an official English release for nearly 3 decades. Atlas Japan didn't localize it, and the Aeon Genesis fan translation arrived in 2004. What it contains is one of the darkest, most narratively ambitious RPGs the SNES ever hosted. Set in Tokyo Millennium, a post-apocalyptic theocratic city-state built over the ruins of Tokyo by the Meshan religion. The protagonist is Aleph, an amnesiac gladiator who wins arena fights for citizenship in the protected inner district. He is told he is the Messiah. The game is about what happens when he starts testing that claim against reality, and the reality starts pushing back. The first-person dungeon crawling inherits from wizardry-style predecessors, but the combat adds demon negotiation. Talk to enemies based on their personality type. Flatter female demons. Threaten aggressive ones. Pay mercenaries. Ignore angelic ones moralizing, or they'll get bored and leave. Fuse recruited demons together to create stronger ones. The magic inheritance system introduced here lets fused demons carry over spells from their component demons, meaning a fragile early-game creature can be rebuilt into something carrying late-game abilities through careful fusion chains. The alignment system affects story paths and available demons throughout the run. The random encounter rate is punishing even by the era's standards, and some players find the negotiation changes from the first game less satisfying in practice. But as world building, a theocratic city-state's secrets exposed through grinding its corridors. There's nothing else like it on the platform. Lufia 2 Rise of the Sinistrals is probably the most criminally underseen game on this list. It was released in North America in 1996, by which point Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy VI had already absorbed all available SNES RPG attention. The console was dying, and almost nobody was paying attention to a sequel to the modest original Lufia. The game that came out anyway was arguably better than both of those classics at dungeon design. Dungeons have no random encounters. Enemies are visible on screen and only move when you do, so you can route around them or set up tactical engagements. Every dungeon is built around puzzles. Push blocks, activate switches, use tools you accumulate, bow, bombs, hookshot, to reach areas and trigger solutions. The difficulty scales from accessible to genuinely head-scratching. The battle system adds IP skills, abilities attached to your equipment that charge when you take damage, similar to limit breaks, except they're tied to what you're wearing rather than your character. Choosing between stronger armor and armor with a useful IP skill is a real decision. A fifth-party slot goes to a capsule monster, AI-controlled, evolved by feeding it items, with 5 forms, that predates the Western release of Pokemon by about a year. The Ancient Cave is a 99-floor randomly generated bonus dungeon where your party starts at level 1 and keeps only items from special blue chests across runs. It's a roguelite before the term existed. The main story's battle difficulty is too low, bosses rarely threaten you, and some translation errors persist. But the dungeon design here is the best on the platform, and it spent 30 years being overlooked. Bahamut Lagoon was, internally at Square, originally called Final Fantasy Tactics. They changed it. The actual FF Tactics came out a year later. This matters because it tells you what Square thought they were building. A tactical RPG that merged strategic grid combat with RPG parties and environmental interaction. Each party of 4 brings 1 dragon companion onto the field. That dragon isn't directly controlled. You set its aggression level and it acts semi-autonomously, but everything you feed it determines its stats, its behavior, and which form it evolves into. Feed it swords and it attacks physically more. Feed it books and it casts more. Its behavior also changes. Overfeed it and it becomes spoiled and clingy, staying next to your party. Neglect it and it wanders the map on its own. Environmental interaction is the tactical highlight. Freeze water to create bridges, burn forests to deny enemy movement, destroy healing buildings with lightning, and watch the effects propagate through the battle. The same director later wrote Final Fantasy VII and X. The main weakness is difficulty. Once your dragons are developed, the game becomes very easy, and the villain roster outside, the primary antagonist, is thin. But the environmental combat system and the dragon raising are genuinely unique even now, and the HD 2D remake this game deserves still hasn't arrived.